Sugar-free Red Bull.
Won't keep you up like coffee will.
No, but it did yesterday. It's because I had 2 Defenders, 3 triple espressos, 3 sugar-free Red Bulls, 2 8-ounce Cokes, and still fell asleep. Of course.
Good Lord.
Couldn't get up. Couldn't sleep all night.
Of course.
Had 2 or 3 whiskeys and a cigar. Couldn't sleep all night.
All that caffeine and sugar.
That's why I was up.
Yep.
It's the first caffeine I've had today.
I can't drink Red Bull. It just tastes nasty to me.
The sugar-free stuff, I love it. It's really refreshing to me, and it does give you wings. I mean, the last time I drank it, I wanted to jump off a building.
Ha.
Just kidding. Brian says, I listened to the Crosstalk show from yesterday. Great show and caller questions. Dude, it was, wasn't it? It was a great program, great callers. It was fun. So, we're going to try to convince Greg to take callers for a half hour, maybe once a week. Right, Greg? Notice how he's not responding.
Phones are broke.
Phones are broke?
Phones are broke.
Oh, okay. So we can take Paul's call today, but we can't get the rest of them for the week, right?
Basically.
The weekend? Okay. Let's see. Get over that gun for you. Let me know when we got Paul on.
All right. Got Paul.
Roger that.
So everybody gets smoked.
Can you hear
Man,
that?
shoot his ass.
Hear what?
Man, shoot
You
his
can't hear
ass.
that?
No, I cannot.
Shoot his ass.
Can you now?
Shoot his ass.
I'm not sure what I'm listening for.
Man, shoot his ass.
It's okay.
But there, no, I can't.
Man, shoot his ass. Shoot his ass. Damn. Oh, shit.
We're getting close.
That's unbelievable.
And 30.
This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the gunbroker.com studios on the Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone.
They're never going to stop us here.
It's 2021, and we're in a new decade. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Welcome inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. The gunbroker.com studios are lit up. The Crossbreed Holsters microphone is ready to rock and roll. It's turned on all across America. Every bit of it being presented today by X Insurance. Check them out, xinsurance.com, a superior product. Get rid of the gimmicks, okay? Get real insurance, just like you have for every aspect of your life. More about that later. One of my favorite people on earth is joining me today, Paul Markel-Student of the gun. Paul, let's just go right to you. How the heck are you, brother?
I'm just Jim Dandy. How are you?
Isn't that a song, Jim Dandy?
Oh,
A rock and roll
sure.
song?
Oh.
I don't, it's been a while. I don't remember, but that's okay. Paul, did you happen to see, I hate to catch you off guard. I didn't have a chance to ask you this yet, but did you happen to see the video from The Truth About Guns of the guy taking a dozen rounds from the Maryland sheriff's deputy on the side of a road as he advanced on him and broke what looked like a 6-foot stick over the deputy's arm and head?
Over him.
And then the deputy, there was somebody in the background yelling, shoot his, which the deputy clearly had the right to do long before he did. And it was apparent that the deputy, after watching the video, you critique my critique of it, it was apparent to me anyway, the deputy didn't want to have to shoot the man. But for God's sakes, if there was ever an individual that needed to be put down like an animal, it was this guy. He looked like a horror movie advancing on this deputy, and he sucked up 12 rounds of what would be a minimum of a 9mm 40. I don't know what they're carrying there, but a minimum of a 9 before he fell to the ground as he continued to advance on that deputy. That video says a lot of things to a lot of people, particularly civilians. Give us your take on it.
Actually, it's interesting. We just played that on the show today that we recorded.
Good.
But we played the video, and the takeaway from the video, the video was shot by a guy sitting in his car with his phone. And if you're familiar with color commentary, he was giving color commentary as live as he was videoing it. And that's a bit distracting. And what I've seen, people they've got distracted away from the actual story, which is the deadly force incident that was going on. Instead, they're focusing on, the color commentary that the guy said. But now when they say a dozen rounds, this guy soaked up a dozen rounds. I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here and say, how many of those pops actually went into the guy? All right.
Well, he was at
12 times doesn't. If you're about to say there's no way you could miss at that distance, don't say that.
I wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say was he was at nose-picking booger distance. He was literally within. It looked to me. And again, the videos, you got to throw caution a little bit here to the wind, but you can't too much, because from the video perspective, from what we see, the individual appeared to be right behind the police officer as the man was advancing. and it appeared that he was literally could have picked his nose. It appeared to be right on top of him. And I have to be honest with you,
he was
tough to
close.
miss him.
But let's just say, all right, however many struck him, more than a half a dozen probably. The reality of the situation that most people don't often come to grips with, especially these new handgun buyers, are that, well, I got a gun and that just solves all my problems, because if a bad person ever shows up, I show them the gun and then they cry and pee on their leg and they run away, because that's how it works. No, that's not how it works.
No.
Some people aren't impressed by that. And some people aren't even impressed when you shoot at them.
Yeah.
And some people aren't even impressed when you shoot into them.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what's the solution? Well, there is no perfect answer. I think it was Musashi. It was either Musashi or one of the great samurai that said, any opponent whose head is within 2 feet of his body is still dangerous. And you just take that for what you will. But the fact of the matter is, it's probably been, well, you guys do the math, but I heard this phrase first in 1986. John Farnham said, when I took one of his classes, my very first, he said, what do people do when you shoot them with a handgun, or after you shoot them with a handgun?
Mm-hmm.
And we all, we're kind of like, burst into flames, fly through the window,
Saw it on TV, man. Saw
it
on TV, brother.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And John's answer was the same thing they were doing before you shot them.
Right.
That's what they're doing. He said most people who are shot with handguns don't realize it until a little while later. So don't look for the one-shot stop. Don't look for the perfect solution. They're not going to burst into flames. I don't care how many cowboy movies you watched or action movies or whatever. They're not going to flip through the air. You need to be prepared for that. And
you mean they're not going to burst into fire, go up in the air 6 feet, blow back through a window?
No,
they're not going to go through the wall. I just want to make it clear for you new gun owners. Pay attention here. What you see on TV isn't real. Okay, we just no.
Yeah.
But Paul, there are some lessons here, and I'm glad they were
There are
brought up a
takeaways.
lot. And I want to cover some of these. This was by John Bach. John's a great guy over there at The Truth About Guns. And some of the takeaways I want to analyze, because a lot of you may be new gun owners in this country. And what Paul was referring to, I've often stated, is the gun is not a magic talisman. It isn't going to ward off evil simply because you have it on you. And it won't ward off evil simply because you pull the gun. Now, I pulled a gun, Paul, as you know, in 2002 on 2 attackers that were beginning to advance on me while I was inside my vehicle, and it stopped them dead in their tracks. But they didn't stop right away. It was very surreal. And it unfolded in a very fast time. But to me, everything slowed down. And I'll never forget that day. But those individuals froze for a moment. But they continued moving. They continued communicating to each other. They didn't take off running, like you said. And it's really, really important to understand that criminals who carry firearms might not be afraid or scared of your firearm. In many cases, some of them have already been shot. And Paul, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's serious. It's a true statement. And I want people to understand if you're a new gun owner. Go ahead, Paul.
No, what you said is absolutely right. We live in our comfortable, reasonable, safe world where, like, well, if someone pointed a gun at me, I would run away or I would surrender or whatever. Yeah, but you don't live in their world. In their world, they've had guns pointed at them. And like you said, a lot of them have actually already been shot and didn't die and got out and went to be doing it again. They're not afraid of that thing. Most of them are not afraid of that thing.
And not only that, not only are they not afraid of being shot, but they also understand that the vast majority of people shot with handguns survive. The vast majority survive.
Oh, yeah. 80% of people who are shot with handguns in America leave the hospital under their own power within 24 hours.
That is correct. Here's another fun fact for you that you might not know, particularly you new gun owners. The number one killer caliber in the United States of America is a .22. Most people don't know that.
Is that still true?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything to refute it yet. I've seen nothing to refute it. It had been for many, many, many years. Now, it could have been back when Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci were shooting people with .22s that added to the number. I don't know, but we'll look into that.
It could be.
But it is something to look into, and it was a statistic for a long time. I've not seen it refuted. If anybody's got the information, bring it to me. I'd love to report it. All right, here's some of the lessons and the takeaways, and I want to carry this into the next segment as well. Very important stuff for you new gun owners. First off, and I'm going to quote, distance gives you time and time gives you options. I think it's important that we point out, let's paint the theater of the mind. The officer is standing very close to the subject, starts what looks to be about 7, 8, 10 feet. The man advances on him, breaks a stick over him, gets close enough to break what looks like I don't know, Paul, what would you say, 4, 5 foot, 6 foot stick of some sort?
Yeah, some kind of blunt object,
And he's within what we would call the Tuller drill. He's within the 21 feet at all times, what appears to be in this video.
Mm-hmm.
The deputy is not shooting. He absolutely had every right to shoot, but you could tell he was trying to ward him off. He was pointing, don't make me do this. I don't want to shoot you. You can see the motions and the movements as the gun was drawn. The man continues to advance. As he continues to advance, he gets closer and closer and closer and closer. He's well within the danger zone. Again, the deputy is hesitant to fire.
30.
So let's take this into the break. We're going to talk about some of these lessons. So that gives you a little bit of, they're backing up. The deputy is backing. The man is advancing towards him, getting closer with each step as they're advancing back. And you can hear a bystander yelling, shoot his blank, 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 before gunshots erupt. So you get that visual of them getting closer as they're backing up. When we come back, the takeaways. And we'll let Paul, who used to wear the uniform and who teaches you some of these aspects of carrying a firearm, the training aspects anyway. There's some fascinating stuff here. Paul Markel, student of the gun, is going to give us a lesson, and you're soon going to find out why we call him also the professor, as we give you some of these takeaways. Pay very careful attention. Don't miss this next segment or two. Hour's going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
When you gave me the 30, you remember yesterday I got caught up? What'd you do, run out of words? Di Primo says, did you run out of words? You said, did you run out of words?
Yeah.
Not today. That break flew by as I was multitasking, so not an issue today, Di. Love you, Mom. I think somebody put that video up on the comments as well. I'm glad they did. Because with Paul today, I want to play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This is, of course, one of them. The other one is the YouTube idiot. That's just incredible. And now I do want to talk with Paul a little bit about head mom over at Moms Demand Action, Shannon R. Watts. And I would also like to say a few words about Mark Cuban.
You know, the NBA just overruled him, and that all teams are going to be required to play the anthem before the game now.
Well, they made it look like his decision after. I think what happened, and I could be wrong, you might know a little better, and you're down there in Dallas. You probably got some of the news on it quicker than the rest of us, being where you are. But it was my understanding that the backlash against him was so intense. I fired off at him at 3 o'clock in the morning when I saw it, and it was very unfriendly. But there was a number of he was hit pretty hard by that, as he should have been, the piece of shit. But I believe he made the decision to back off with the anthem, and then the NBA came out and made a statement afterwards saying this is BS that they're going to play the anthem. I mean, clearly the NBA knows they're in trouble anyway, and when they saw the backlash at him, they came out what seemed to be fairly forceful. Do I have that correct?
I believe so. To be honest, this is not something that I pay attention to. I have just seen a few headlines and read a little bit about it. I quite honestly don't care about the anthem being played before a game. That's not a thing that I look for. Typically, I'm going to get a beer at that time anyways. But, you know, for people that find it either traditional or find it inspiring or find whatever they do in it, you know, it doesn't hurt to play it at all. Of course, I don't go to professional sporting events either, so.
Cuban made a real smart-ass remark to someone who said, why don't you go whine to your boss and then tell me whether or not you play the national anthem before you go to work every day? It was a very smart-ass response. It was very condescending because, traditionally speaking, the national anthem is played at sporting events and has been for decades. And Cuban knew better than that, and he attacked a fan. And I don't care how many billions of dollars you have, I'd like to see every one of them stuffed right down his throat. He was obnoxious as all get out, man, and he lost this one, and good for him.
Well, it's kind of inaccurate to say it's been played before every game, typically before big games. It became a thing of prominence in around 2008 when the Department of Defense started funding these patriotic displays before football games in order to create the atmosphere.
But I have
So
never
it
been,
wasn't
as a
played-
Buccaneer season ticket holder from the 1990s on, I have never been to a sporting event where I didn't stand up, take my hat off, whether it was professional baseball, whether it was football, whether it was hockey. When I was in Philadelphia, long before I moved to Tampa, when I was fresh out of college, I don't ever recall it not being played. But your argument is well, you're correct. It hasn't been something that's been played from day one since every sporting event since 1775. Okay.
Well, we've talked through the 30 as well.
How much time do we have?
5 seconds before we're back.
Okay. Facebook fans, I love it.
Off-air convo.
This upcoming segment of Armed American Radio is being sponsored by GunBroker.com, the world's largest online marketplace to buy and sell firearms, ammo, and related accessories. That's GunBroker.com. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show indeed. I was on a program yesterday called Crosstalk for an hour right up to yesterday's live program with Raphael, who, by the way, sent me a text this morning. He said, "How did I do on the show yesterday? Was I okay?" I said he was great. I love when Rafi's on the show. I hope you enjoyed him. Raphael from Bursa, by the way. Can't wait to have him back. He's a lot of fun. We have good conversational, fun. This is a phone call type radio program that he and I would have privately. And I'm like that with Paul as well, and most of my guests, frankly. But it was a great program with Raphael. If you missed it, the podcast is up. But while I was on Crosstalk, a woman from Tucson called in saying, "I need help, Mark. You know, I don't know where to buy a gun. I've been wanting a gun for months. I'm here in Arizona. I can't find a gun everywhere I go. They're either gone before they get here." And I directed her to GunBroker. And I said, "Look, I've been telling people, I don't like to tell people, I told you so. I will say that to my listeners. I certainly wouldn't say that to that young lady that called in yesterday. She was seriously looking for a firearm and having difficulty. So I directed her to a place I knew had a lot of availability. But you know what? A caller came in a few minutes later from, I believe, Wisconsin to say, you know what? They do, but their prices are high. And I want to remind people, GunBroker doesn't price anything. It's the market. This is supply and demand. Millions of people are buying guns and their availability. Car Arms, North American Arms, for example, are two firearm sponsors here on the program. Dude, they're 12 months out from delivery. 12 months out. Okay, so you have those market conditions. Here's my advice to you. Go check out GunBroker. Lots of them have a buy now price. You don't have to get involved in an auction. You can go and buy now. Probably going to be higher than you wanted, but if it's there, at least you can get your hands on it, okay? GunBroker.com. Make sure to go and check them out. Over 1.5 million auctions. They're having, obviously, a record year because of what they do and what is available on their site. So it's not their price. It's the market. And I'm going to tell you, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Should have done it a couple years ago. We've been warning you. All right, Paul. Let's go into some of the. Go ahead.
I'm gonna dovetail real quick.
Please.
My question to people who say, I have to buy a gun. I want to buy a gun. I'm looking for a gun. I don't have one. I want to buy one now. Okay. My question to these people is why? What do you want it for? What changed in your life from you didn't want one last year, didn't want one 5 years ago, didn't want one 10 years ago? What has changed in your life that is making you want to buy one?
That's legit.
And,
it's a legit question.
Depending on that answer, they're like, well, I just want it just in case. Just in case what? Well, just in case. Well, just in case isn't a real answer, okay? And if you're not willing to devote time, effort into training and educate, if you're like brand new, you absolutely have to get time, education, and training in with that. And if you're not willing to devote that, save the money, save the $500-600 that you were going to have to spend on a gun and go buy canned food and water filters and a generator or something, because you'll be better served by that. Or
you should have that anyway.
Go to the local shelter. Well, here's the reality, man. If people are just now waking up saying, I should buy a gun, do you think they have 6 months worth of food and a generator and water and stuff stocked at their house?
No. And what's fun to talk about that is this has been a theme through this program for over a dozen years. You know, I used to joke about it when we were on during the Obama years. Even Obama's FEMA told you to have these things, sans the gun. But even Obama's FEMA told you to have X amount of this, and this. Now, I came from Florida to Georgia. I had no clue when I moved here that I was walking from hurricane country into tornado country. I had no idea that this area of the state got vicious tornadoes. Where I'm at gets tons of tornadoes. Come out of Alabama, it's ridiculous. If I had known I was going to be hearing this in the middle of the night, no, I wouldn't be here. I don't do tornadoes, and I don't do fast-moving, swift floods and rising water, but I digress. All right, Paul, let's go. You should have these things. We told you so. Don't be afraid when you're don't blame anybody else but yourself. But the prices are high. That's the market. It's just what's happening, okay? All right.
Yep.
Lots of lessons. The distance gives you time and gives you options. I explained the theater of the mind in the distance. Talk to us about the distance as these two closed the gap as the man was advancing on a retreating officer who had a gun drawn on him, seemingly was someone who just didn't care.
Yeah. All right. Number one, you're talking about a police officer who was dispatched to a traffic collision. Okay. This guy was, they got calls that this car had crashed into some other cars. So as a cop, if I hear that, I'm immediately thinking DUI or something like that. Right. So I'm not expecting I'm going to have to shoot someone in 5 minutes. I'm thinking, there's probably a DUI or something like that. You have to, and everyone talks about the Tueler drill. Everybody, once they discover it, they're like, ooh, I just discovered this magic thing.
Explain it, please. Explain it for new gun owners. Explain the Tueler drill since you mentioned it.
Dennis Tueler figured out that it takes 1.5 seconds to cut for the average human adult to cover 21 feet.
From a dead stop. From a dead stop. That's important to point out.
From a dead stop. Yeah, they're standing there, and then 1.5 seconds later, they're touching you. And we did this when I went to the academy. We used the wax bullets, and we did the demonstrations and everything. Now, here is the reality of the situation. As a police officer, you never engage a member of the public unless they have a gun in their hand and they're threatening you or something. But you never engage someone in an initial first contact from 21 or 30 feet away. All right. You have to get, these are humans. You have to get close enough to a human to talk to them, to hear what they say back to you. And if I'm 20 yards away from you on a street corner and traffic's going by, and I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing over there? And you're like, I can't hear you. So the sick thing or the twisted irony of the situation is we know that the closer we are to people, that the more danger we're in. But we also have to get close to people to interact with them. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of the situation.
And you are taught this, and you are trained this at the academy. And what has to go through your mind at all times, and this is what people fail to remember when it comes to police work. When you hear, I'm going to an accident, the cop cannot put out of his mind or not think about why that accident occurred. He's got to be thinking, or she's got to be thinking ahead, that they could, in fact. A friend of mine was a police officer in Overland Park, Kansas, murdered just last year, months ago, after witnessing a hit and run. The guy took off. He was in his full uniform, but he was in his private car going to an after-hours job in full uniform. When the guy stopped the car in front of him, got out, walked towards him, a gunfight ensued. Both individuals were killed, including my friend. This happens, and you guys know this, don't you, Paul? You have to know this.
30.
When I went to the academy, they said that if you're gonna get shot on this job or killed on this job, it's probably going to be during a traffic stop or a domestic violence call. Yeah. Everyone's like it. They say the typical traffic stop or an average traffic stop or whatever, and that's another part of dealing with human reality is you do this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. You deal with traffic incidents hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And the first 157 times you did that, you didn't have to draw your gun. And then 158, you do.
All you've got to do is watch an episode of Cops. Oh, I'm sorry. The Social Justice Warriors took it off the air. And you will see just how dangerous a traffic stop is. There is nothing routine about it. When we come back, we're going to go to the second lesson in this. And there are a few, but we want to get this out for you. Back with Paul Marco after this. Don't go away. Told you it's going to go fast.
Always does.
Better go get another sugar-free Red Bull. I'm running out.
All right, we're close.
All right.
And
We're not recording, so.
30.
Back to Armed American Radio's Daily Defense with Mark Walters.
Yeah, you are. Let's go right back to Paul Markel. The segments are flying right by today. I can't apologize for time flying, but Armed American Radio Daily Defense, no doubt, is the fastest hour in radio. The one fastest I've ever seen before. My guests have commented the same thing, as has the production crew day after day. Paul Markel, welcome back, student of the gun. We're talking about the deputy-involved shooting in Maryland, crazed lunatic. We're covering some of it. If you're just joining us, an individual advancing on an officer who was required to shoot, he showed tremendous restraint. By the way, he was clearly whacked out of his brain, and the guy took what is being reported as 12 rounds, continuing to advance without seemingly being bothered until he fell. And he could have done a tremendous amount of damage had that been anybody but a deputy. Think if that was your wife or daughter who maybe had gotten into an altercation in a parking lot with him, or a car accident. Would have been horrific, the result. All right. Paul, the first one, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's something that people need to understand. They're like, a lot of people see a police officer versus a dude thing, and they're like, well, that's a cop's job, and that's what they're supposed to do, and so forth. This guy was, as we said, we established the officer was responding to 911 calls about traffic collisions, right? This could have been the driver of a car that this guy collided with.
Yeah.
The driver pulls over, he gets in a crash, he gets out, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? And this whack job goes nutso on him.
I mean, it could have been my 16-year-old son. This freaks me out whenever my kids leave the house. It could have been my son. Could have been my 18-year-old daughter, who would have just gotten out of the car thinking, okay, we have to handle this the way we have to handle this, hopefully not hurt. And this wacko's coming at her. Imagine that happening. So keep all of that in mind in that theater of the mind as we continue to talk about this, because we're talking about the takeaway lessons for you if you carry a firearm. I love shows like this. Second, and I'm quoting from John's column, John Bach, The Truth About Guns, the deputy showed good tactics by continuing to move while firing. Hence why all of us should, quote unquote, get off the X. Anybody that's taken professional training knows what that means. That means to move while shoot. And John points out it's not easy to get that kind of training at every range because you're not allowed to move and shoot. You're stuck in your stall like a kicking mule, and you kick and you get yelled at, okay? Somebody complains. But if you're able, he says, to find locations or opportunities to shoot on the move, in practice, do so. It might save you from death or great bodily injury someday. Paul, talk to us about the movement, because everything was advancing while coming backwards towards the camera that was facing this. But there clearly was movement. The officer was moving.
Well, yeah, the officer was moving. The only thing I would critique this officer on as far as moving is moving straight backwards is almost always the wrong thing to do. And I know when you give absolutes, you're absolutely wrong. But generally, when you get off the X, you're not taught to get off the X to the rear. Right. Because you're still on the same line. It's either hard left or hard right. It's basically like when I went to, years and years ago, the instructor said, you're on the railroad tracks and the train's coming. If you back up 5 steps, the train's still going to run you over. It'll just run you over 5 steps later. Right. He goes, but if you take one big step to the right or one big step to the left, the train will not hit you. Does everyone understand? North, south. Yep, everybody understands. So when it comes to moving, and when you say, well, if you can't do that at your local range, or this guy in the article says, if you can't, here's the deal. Every single human being who's listening to this show within the borders of the United States of America has the opportunity to take valuable training at a good school. Yeah. Now, they have the opportunity to do that. If the desire to do that is not the same as the opportunity. So if your excuse is, well, my local rent by the hour gun range doesn't allow me to do that, so I'm not going to, that's my excuse. That's not an excuse.
Well, let me go a step further also. We all have the ability to dry fire wherever it is we happen to live, whether it be in a particular room in the house, the garage, a yard, whatever it may be, even in an apartment. You can still practice these, getting off the X. And Paul, you're correct. All of the training I've taken over the years, every bit of it when it talks about moving and shooting is always a lateral move, okay, regardless. And also there's also a seeking cover aspect of that particular training too as you get more advanced. But we can all do this dry fire, okay? Make sure the firearm is unloaded. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like on some of the shows, to make sure it's unloaded 15 times and then go 40 feet away as if somehow the ammunition that is in your safe and isn't in your gun is going to jump into your gun. Use your head. It's right between your ears, all right? Make sure the gun is unloaded and you can do some dry fire stuff, movement. You don't even have to use a gun. You can use your cell phone, okay, if you want to, about getting off the X. But if you can do it live fire, it's much better. All right. So are we clear on the X movement? I think I am getting off the X, Paul. Did you want to add into it?
We don't want to beat that.
All right. Now the next
one. I think
one.
the main thing that we need to talk about is the well, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the fact that bullets you don't know how many rounds you're going to need.
Well, you don't, and I can promise you that the cop had no idea how many rounds he fired. He probably didn't hear his weapon being discharged. And take a listen to this. And I like what John mentioned here, because this is a fun conversation to have. You hear idiots on the left all the time. Why don't you? I'm going to do you, Paul. Did you see how this came? Why don't you just shoot him in the leg? How come you didn't just shoot him in the leg? Or if those bullets weren't stopping him, why didn't you just shoot him in the head? Because it's a dynamic, fluid situation. He's reacting to his training. He's discharging his weapon. He's got auditory exclusion going on. He's got all kinds of things happening right here, and he's reacting to how he was trained. And I go back and look at my incident. I was aiming center of mass, I believe, and I can tell you right now, Paul, if I had to fire, it wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to do Johnny Rambo and ask the guy, or not Johnny Rambo, well, what's his face, Clint Eastwood, are you going to trust that I've got only one round left in here? Come on, man. I mean, this is real life. So here's what he said. The failure to stop. After being shot with the first few rounds, that may suggest the attacker had concealed body armor under his clothes. In these cases, one should hunt the head as a target of opportunity, but the pelvic region moves a lot slower. This one is shooter's choice. In the end, the bad guy finally went down after 12 rounds. That's a good thing, because Deputy Dog likely had only 3 or 4 left in the magazine. If it was a Glock 17 and he had 12, he probably had 5 rounds left, but he didn't know it. If it was the Glock 19, he probably had 2 rounds or 3 rounds left. Take it away, Paul.
Yeah, that's something that people, everybody who buys a gun for the first time, or they have this, especially the concealed carrier, the first-time concealed carrier, they get it, and then they start formulating in their minds my gunfight. They formulate the my gunfight. If they start thinking, because they're naturally thinking about, what would I have to do and what should I do? And now I'm carrying this, I got this hot rock on my hip now, and they start thinking about the my gunfight. If this ever happens, I'm going to do this, and that's what's going to happen. The reality of the situation is we go back to the new gun buyer, first-time gun buyer or carrier that has this, well, I bought the gun and I bought ammo, so I'm good. I'm not stupid. I know what I'll do. I know what to do. They have this illusion that, well, if I pull the gun out and I show it to them and I say, stop, then they'll be impressed and they'll stop. Or if I fire the gun, I cause the gun to make noise, the bad guy will hear the noise and they will run away. They'll stop. But the reality of the situation is that you don't know. When you're upset, when you're attacked, when you're assaulted, you don't get to make that choice. There's only one creature in that equation that gets to that's making the choice, and that's the person that's attacking you.
That's evil.
They're going to stop when they want to stop. Yeah, and
that
say,
equation,
oh,
Paul, that you're referring to is something we've discussed on the show for years. First off, you have to understand that evil exists. It does. This is evil. This officer knows. He's been around the block. He knows evil exists. He sees it daily. And he also knows that evil will pick and choose the time of the altercation, not you. You don't get to say, okay, I've got my gun on my hip and I've got 2 magazines today. I'm ready for evil to attack me. Let's get it on now. It doesn't work that way because evil's looking for you when you're not paying attention. And again, this goes back into, the preparation, avoidance, awareness, prepare to avoid by being aware. I mean, we could go into everything here, but we're not. Time is in our way. We're getting ready to take our final break for the day. When we come back, we'll wrap this up. Then I want to play another play stupid games, win stupid prizes deal. I want to ask Paul about the YouTuber who got shot in a fake prank with knives attacking people who didn't think it was fake and responded with a deadly force, as they should have. Hard to have sympathy there, guys. Back after this. I knew it was there. Let's get this on. Let's see if we can remember this because someone put it up there for us. Here we go, guys. I was talking about Jim Dandy to the rescue. Somebody reminded me, it's Jim Dandy to the rescue, right? Oh, Black Oak, Arkansas.
Down the road to the mountaintop, 30,000 feet to drive. Saw a lady on a one-way horse. That's right, of course. Jim Dandy to your rescue. Only I met a girl named Ruth. She was feeling kind of blue. I'm Dandy, the kind of guy. I can't stand to see a little girl cry. Jim Dandy to your rescue. Come on. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. House of Blues. Jim Dandy to the rescue.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Defender Coffee. When you drink Defender Coffee, you're making a donation to a gun rights organization of your choice that protects and defends your freedoms. Welcome back to the show. This, for those of you who are watching the show, if you're watching the show, you get to see all the cool stuff, right? And you get some great music in the breaks. Jim Dandy to the Rescue by Black Oak, Arkansas. It was a while since I heard that one. Thanks for the commenter for reminding me about that when we were talking about Jim Dandy. Fighting Solves Everything, SOTG on the other side of this. Student of the Gun, Paul Markel. We're sipping out of a little bit of Red Bull, sugar-free Red Bull here. Had a Defender coffee before the show and then went to a little sugar-free Red Bull here out of Student of the Gun mug. So, by the way, Derek I spoke with today at Defender Coffee. They're doing some great work on the website. Possible release of that new website for you on next week. I'll let you know, but it's coming quick. Lead Slingers Whiskey. Oh, the promo code AAR is 15%. Lead Slingers Whiskey and Second Amendment Foundation. No brainer. SAF.org. My Pillow. Mike Lindell is just killing it over there. His numbers are up in large part because of us. I saw somebody else picked up another, if I'm not mistaken, another $100 worth of stuff for My Pillow. Use the promo code AAR. Let him know the gun-owning public out here supports him. Please. They're trying to destroy the man and everything he's built because they don't like his politics. The hell with them. Give them the AAR promo code. Buy something. $28 for a queen-size pillow, for gosh sakes. All it takes. Use the promo code AAR. Radio listener specials. MyPillow.com. Car Arms, Gunbroker.com. This is Gunbroker.com Studios. Crossbreed Holsters. This is the Crossbreed Holsters microphone. Always discounts at CrossbreedHolsters.com. And let's not forget Front Sight. FrontSight.com/Mark. Ignatius will be on the show either this coming Sunday or next. I'll keep you posted. But by the end of the week, you'll know. XInsurance.com. Get real. Get real insurance like you have for everything else. This show is presented to you by X Insurance. Paul Markel, Student of the Gun. Let's go ahead and exclamation point this amazing video, this incredible footage that shows us that the gun, the most important part of this, is that the gun is not the magic talisman that a lot of people think it is. Exclamation point, then let's go to that stupid YouTuber.
Okay, takeaways. 3 takeaways. Number 1, this happened at a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. How many people delude themselves and say, well, I'm just driving to get groceries or I'm going to get coffee on a Saturday morning. Nothing bad could possibly ever happen to me. You don't know when. 24 hours a day, all day, every day. It's your responsibility to be ready. Number 2, get training. If you just bought a gun and now you think, oh, I'm good, I have a gun, you're deluding yourself. Get real training. And number 3, handguns are not the magic talisman. They are not the best fight-stopping tools in the world, but we carry them because we can't carry rifles and shotguns everywhere we go. So it is the best. Well, it's the best we can do.
Yeah, it is for now. And we go to Clint Smith.
It's a happy medium.
We go to Clint Smith. You use your handgun to fight your way to your rifle. I mean, we could talk about this all day long for another 3 hours, but Greg and the network won't let me have another 3 hours. So I'll lay blame on them. One other thing I want to point out, this could, in fact, open the caliber wars. Okay, those of you who carry a .380, it's likely this officer was carrying a 9 or a 40. Likely, highly likely, that it was a 9 or a 40. Could have been a 45, but doubtful. In most cases, it's the 9mm nowadays. Could be the 40 still. But regardless, this could open the caliber wars. Those of you who carry a .380, those of you who carry a .32, you're carrying better than nothing. No question about it. And my favorite handgun of choice was the .22 North American Arms for concealed carry because you can always have it on you. Believe me. Rather have that than nothing. But this will open up the caliber wars as well. And Paul, do you want to mention that real quick before we move on? I think that's important too.
No, if people are going to have that, if people are like, if it had been a 45, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, right. Okay,
whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Go back and watch some more. Go back and watch more cartoons. Okay. All right.
PCP. But let's go to the YouTube video.
Go to the. All right. I talked about this briefly yesterday, but here we got a guy pulling a quote unquote prank. Supposedly a well-known YouTuber. I guess he was what they would call an influencer or whatever. I don't know. I don't know who he is.
Whatever.
But I know his prank was bad when he approached a few people in a parking lot at a shopping center area, and he had I guess he had some knives, and the individuals in Nashville who saw this didn't like being approached with knives and took defensive action lawful defensive action and defended their life against what they thought was a deadly threat coming at them with knives. Now, Paul, I've often said, even to Ernie Emerson, best knife maker and world expert, leading expert on knives, I hate knives, dude. I'd much rather be shot than cut up. I hate them. You can get thumped with a knife in the chest, punch, think you just got punched and not know it. And like Ernie will tell you, and about 2 seconds later, you're slumped against the curb, bleeding out, and you're dead in 40 seconds. Okay? Knives are very dangerous. These guys had every right to turn fire on their what appear to be attackers, did they not?
Yeah. So we've been seeing this crap for years and years and years. A lot of it comes out of England. A lot of it comes out of Great Britain, where the people dress like the killer clown or whatever, and they come jumping out from alleys or out of doorways with machetes and knives, and then they film the reaction of the people falling all over themselves and screaming and running away. Ha, 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 ha. Super funny, right? And, our culture, not the community, but our culture, we see these videos and we're like, that's all nice and fun for you guys. But they did you in Japan too and so forth, or in Asia. But don't do that here. Texas people are like, that's funny, but don't do that in Texas because you'll get shot. Well, apparently this 20-year-old in Tennessee who lives in Tennessee
right.
apparently didn't get the memorandum that Tennessee adults carry guns.
Yeah.
And I was 20 once. You were 20. And I wasn't stupid enough to, fake a robbery.
Yeah,
or fake an assault.
I can't. This is the epitome of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. In this case, the stupid prize was death. I don't recall ever in my life saying, "Hey, let's fake rob those people. Go into the kitchen and get some knives for a laugh." Now, granted, I didn't have a cell phone, and I didn't have this desire to be some stupid TikToker or whatever it is, and try to be famous. So maybe that's changed things.
Stupider.
Maybe we're stupider.
Well, no, it is. It is. We've grown. The internet has made people stupider, not more intelligent. But the facts are the facts. And when people say, "Oh, this was just a young kid," pump the brakes, Jack.
No.
This human was 20 years old. This is the same human that you think should be voting for the president. This is the same human that can sign contracts and get married and all that other stuff. And you're like, oh, but when a
30
gets shot, he was just a 20-year-old kid. At some point in time, we have to hold humans responsible for their behavior, and children need to grow up and be expected to be adults. You can't have it both ways.
You can't have it both ways. I'm going to close the show out with this. I've just been told we have about 20 seconds now. We've talked many times on the program, Paul, and I think we've had the conversations private and off air as well. And I can't tell you how many times, if a 15-year-old or 14-year-old kid or even 13-year-old kid is smart enough and old enough to put a mask on and break into a man's home at 3 o'clock in the morning, they deserve every bit of lead coming back at them because that was an adult decision. Again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Honest to God. Paul, phenomenal show today. Phenomenal show. Thank you so much for what you do. Paul Markel, studentofthegun.com. Studentofthegun.com. Tomorrow, I think Dave Workman's going to be here. And then on Friday, David Codria. Closing out the week strong. I mean, Paul Markel, Dave Workman, David Codria. Then the Monster Cast. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. No self-respecting caveman would ever get caught outside his cave without his club. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you on the radio.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
Great program today. Woo, doggy. Should have had that one on film. Didn't have that one on film, but we do have it on tape. We can still call it tape, right? It's being recorded. but not really on tape.
basically. Yeah. I still say we roll tape, so.
Well, that's because that's just the lingo. Is it live or is it Memorex?
We do ask that as well. On holidays, we'll come in and say, all right, is everything on Memorex today? Okay, good.
There we go. Sunday show was Memorexed.
It was.
Was put in an hour before the program aired. I had a tough time. The lineup was brutal to me over the weekend.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that you ended up not having people wanting to do the roundtable because of the game.
Yeah, well, no big deal.
It happens on Sunday. I've run numerous Sunday evening programs over the years, and that happens more often than not.
Angelina Natalia, very good show. Ciao. I love that. Angelina's in the house. I love that. Yeah, been some great programs. Martin, thanks. Setting the bar. Yeah, the programs have been really good. It's the guests. And the topics have been handed. Just the topics have been there, you know? I mean, it's that simple.
Easy content.
Easy content. I go back. I love this. I remember my mother years ago. And, you think about that. It's 2021. Our first show was 2009. That sounds a lot older and longer than it really is.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, my mom said to me, you're going to do what? You're going to sell your company? You're going to give up that? You're going to talk on the radio? Can you even talk about that subject for 1 hour every week?
Yeah.
Mom, if you're listening, I love you. But, yeah, we can. I still don't have enough time. We need another 2 hours in this program. You never know.
At least another hour.
If those of you out there are interested in sponsoring the program, that would be required to pick us up another hour, but I would certainly be willing to spend the extra 5, it'd be 5 hours. We had an extra 2. I could go 3, honestly. I mean, we could do 2 more a day. So I would be willing to do that because it would be much, much easier to clear this show for a 3-hour program.
Well, we got one before and one after this hour that's available.
That would work. Any word on Rush, by the way? I understand he's not been on the air since the 2nd. And saying a prayer for Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, I have not heard anything. Just because we're in the industry doesn't mean we get inside baseball. But no, I haven't heard anything. But sometimes we do get good word.
Okay. Well, we haven't gotten anything yet. So y'all say a prayer for Rush Limbaugh.
No
Rough
news
out
is
there.
good news.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. And unfortunately, in some of these cases, no news. We wake up one day and find out that we've lost one of the best ever. The best ever.
Legend.
The best ever. Nobody come close. And created the whole genre of radio that the network
I was just
does.
about
everything.
to say that.
Created everything. We wouldn't have this radio. Salem Network wouldn't be doing what they're doing if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh in Sacramento 30 years ago.
Yep.
Incredible stuff. Out of Missouri, too. Out of Missouri.
Yep. Started with the Kansas City Chiefs.
So, Godspeed, Rush. We're with you. Okay. I'm going to cut you loose.
Cool.
I will see you tomorrow. Great radio today. There went Greg. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. By the way, before I go today, let me just tell you, Mark Cuban is an ass. So there you have it. That's my take, okay? All right, guys, got a little bit of work to do. Got to go check out the progress on the new AAR studio. They're really cooking along. All the electric went in today. Track lighting going in up top. So we'll keep you advised. Mike could be on the air out there. Mike be on the air out there in as little as 2 weeks. Wouldn't that be something? I will keep you posted. Going to head over and check that out right now. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Enjoy the podcast. I'll have it up in just a little bit. Share it, like it, and I'll see you on the radio tomorrow.